I'm happy to introduce Derk de Geus is one of the co-founders of Paladin Studios. They develop a combination of entertainment games, serious games. Everything they make has entertainment value, right? That's one of the goals. Momonga has been out for a while. It's been awarded for tonight one of the contestants for the best art prize. It's a nice iOS game with a really nice feel. Derk also stepped in last minute. He didn't know until Friday around noon that he was going to be giving this presentation because we have a cancelled speaker for this slot. So I'm very grateful, Derk, that you're stepping in. Derk is also helping us with mentorship with some of the companies because he's done it himself, so he loves to share his experience. So a warm applause for Derk de Geus.
Thank you, Jeppe. JP. All right, guys. Can I also take one of these? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, it's
Okay. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. I like a little bit of movement because I can watch the screen everywhere and I can do this. All right, so let's start with a show of hands. Who's a pro? Couple of pros. Who's a student? Awesome.
Student life.
Yeah, student life. Okay, cool. So we've got more students, a couple of pros. What I hope is to give something for both of you guys, both categories, if you will. And I will be focusing on artwork. And what I was thinking about was that a lot of the artist students over here, some of you may end up in a company like Paladin, which is awesome. Some of you may start your own company, which is awesome too. Others will end up selling shoes in a shoe store, right? And this talk, basically, I hope to improve your odds of either starting a successful game studio or joining one. So what I'm going to focus on is the principles of making art and the processes of making art. And the goal is simple, to improve your artwork. So a little bit about me. I'm Paladin. This is Paladin, this is the studio, this is the team. You can see the guy in the middle who looks like the CEO, he's an intern. Basically we're a happy bunch, we're just building games. And our mission is to create games that make people smile. So that's kind of what we try to do with everything. And one of those games is Momonga Pinball Adventures. And that's what this talk is about. Wait for it. Oh, this is the wrong track. Okay, I'm sorry about that. There should be another thing. Anyway, the art process. Okay, so so before I start explaining the art process, one of the things that I was thinking about that would really help you guys to improve your artwork is to share with you our art process. And the reason for that is to be honest with Momonga, we didn't really have a process in place. But as we went along with Momonga, we redid a lot of the artwork, and we figured that we sometimes needed to start from scratch again. And a good process helps you to do the right things in the right order. And I think this is one of the keys to improving your art. So that's why I'm going to talk a lot about process, and I will use Momonga as an example of how we use this process to do the art for Momonga. So the first step in this process is the brainstorm. And next you start to create kind of a sense of what you want. You do that with the references and the mood board. And then we go ahead and we start doing some sketches. So we kind of try to get a little bit more creative, you could say. And then to the concept art and production. So this is how we do it, and I will explain a little bit about that process using our hero, Momo, as an example of how we did all these things for him. So the first point is the brainstorm. And brainstorm is basically all about gathering the ideas that are in your head. And this is probably, just the basic stuff. You probably know this already, but some rules of the brainstorm is, I like to gather everybody around who's kind of involved in that process. You don't say no or but in these sessions, so it's every idea that comes to the table is all right. There's no good or bad. This is actually one of the hardest parts to do, and one of the most important parts as well. You need to set a time limit. Usually that's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and it's all about gathering as many ideas as possible. So it's not about the quality of these ideas. Then the last part is it's good to have it on paper. So you want to write stuff down and then go ahead and pick the best ideas afterwards. This is not from Momonga. I didn't have the brainstorm sessions for Momonga, but what I did have was some, kind of brainstorm sketches from Momonga that you can see here. So actually, we didn't start with the flying squirrel. We started off with pickles and onions and radishes. And this is Tom's artwork. He did a lot of stuff for that. And then we kind of, we changed it a little bit from a simple ball to something that maybe has a tail, and you kind of get creative with these ideas in these sessions. A special kind of brainstorming is prototyping. It's kind of I look at it as kind of a form of hands-on brainstorming. You just explore your ideas and you just go ahead and build it, right? Then you try it out, you learn your lesson to start from scratch again. I think that this is very powerful to get hands-on in the early phase. So definitely go ahead, definitely do some prototyping. This is actually the prototype from Momonga. We started out with, hey, we got this nice idea, maybe pinball with infinite mechanics or something with levels. And we built this in a week. One guy actually did this. And it's kind of the basis for everything that we did after. This one is called Pinball Forever. And we kind of changed the concept a little bit, but in general, you get the ball, and the ball is the character and everything. So it's pretty cool. The second step is to get some references. And the thing about references is that you want to know what's out there. This takes time, so it's always good, in my view, that you just open a shared folder, whether it's Dropbox or a network drive. Let everybody just browse the web, anything that they come across, just put it in there for the project. And actually, I think that these references, it's actually a continuous process. So even if you're not working on a game project, even if you're doing something completely else, it's always good to look around and do that stuff anyway. And that kind of brings you to ideas, because ideas are, they're combinations of existing stuff. And if you don't gather that existing stuff, you can't combine it, right? Does that make sense? So if you just keep on gathering that stuff, you keep on gathering those cool pictures and those cool items that you find on the web or anywhere else, you can basically just capture everything. And if you put nice pictures in the Dropbox folder, you can set it as a screensaver, so you kind of get confronted with it sometimes. And I use Evernote to capture every idea that I have ever. It kind of builds a repository of ideas, and you can get a lot of inspiration from that. These are some of the pictures from my inspiration folder. I picked 3 random pictures. It has nothing to do with Momonga. Well, this one has, actually. But you can see that it's just about anything I find on Reddit or stumble upon or whatever. And that's fine. And actually, this is how we came across the concept of the Momonga. Momonga is actually a species of flying squirrel. And I saw this picture on cuteoverload.com. Sorry. Yeah. I didn't save it though. I knew I saw it, and we were brainstorming about these onions and stuff, and I was like, this is not going to work. We need something like a squirrel. And I remembered these little creatures, and they were all fluffy and big eyes, and they looked a little bit like a ball, right? We needed something that was ballish. And by the way, you can see the little guy in the back, you know, he's looking, oh shit, he's going to attack. And that's the ninja right there. You can see the ninja attacking. And these other guys are just happily sitting there. So I went back 20 pages of computer overload, and then I found this picture. I found out that they were actually Momongas. They're Japanese dwarf flying squirrels. And instantly we had the theme for our pinball game. So that's when you start a mood board. And when you have all these references, you want to kind of gather it and make it more structured and organized. And it's really nice to have a mood board where you just pick the best pictures, the ones that kind of make sense the most, and you put it on one page. And you know, you can do it for any topic. You can choose the art style, or I don't know, just game references, whatever it is. I would say 10 to 15 images per board, and label each picture with a number. This is important because it allows you to easily communicate about those pictures. If you say, the second one from the right in the middle, that doesn't make sense. If you say, hey, check out number 10, I like that a lot. It's a tool to communicate about these things. This is sadly the only mood board that we have from Momonga, I'm ashamed to admit. And I suspect, given the content of it, that we created it, I don't know, 6 months ago or something at most. So apparently I didn't use this system, but we do use it for our new games. And this is another game that we're building that's coming out in a couple of weeks, or that we've built. It's done already. Which includes a tornado, and kind of we build this mood board to kind of think about the art style and the theme a little bit. Then you'll move on to the sketches. I like to, you know, do pen and paper for this, but that's personal. You know, if you have the thumbnail system where you just take 30 minutes per thumbnail, or 5 minutes or whatever. The point is to go wide. Right? You don't want to spend too much time on one sketch and then be stuck with one idea. You want to think of as many options as you can, and you want to look for as much variations as you can. And it needs to communicate. So again, I went back and I tried to look up some sketches. These were all that I found. We actually had more. I showed a couple of pickles. It's actually kind of in this phase as well. This is one of the earlier Momo sketches that I could find. And you can see here that it doesn't really, this doesn't take a lot of time. It's just a way to explore the ideas and to really think about, hey, what can we do with this character? And this is a little bit later, when Jeannie stepped in. You can see, we've actually done a lot of these little sketches to think about the Momongas and how they live, and what the family, what the tribe looks like. Then of course you have the concept art, and that's kind of like, the thing where you can make it pretty. Right? This is the colors and everything just comes together in this. But by this time you have a pretty clear idea what you want. So this is Momo. It's kind of, he has the ball form. You have the stripes on his back. At this time, we didn't really know his exact shape, but we were still looking for that. And now is also a good time to really play around with all the different options. You can see little subtle things. I'm not sure if there's a pointer here. Yeah. Okay, cool. You can see some little things like the eyes, different eyes here, different paintings. He has paintings on his cheek. With yellow as well, over here. In the end, we just settled for, I think, this one, which is basically the simplest option out there. But it's good to think about this, right? It's good to think about how does it work together, how does it, what's the best way to make it memorizable, how can you recognize this character? Then you have the model sheet. It's could call this production, but I kind of look at it as concept art still. The model sheet is basically a tool for the 3D artists, so they don't have to think about it, about the model design. They just have to kind of copy it from paper. This is the model sheet from Momo, and the artists can use that for the real work, the production. At this stage, the design is done, so you don't have to do any thinking about, hey, how big does his tail need to be, or should we do this kind of painting or that kind of painting? This is just, trace the concept art. It's great to do some pixel fucking here, but it's like, this is about kind of crossing the T's and nothing big. And you can see here that a good translation of a model still takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. You can see the kind of the phases where, or kind of the progression of the model. We used to have Momo in a much more lower resolution, lower poly count, but we figured we needed more to make it look good. So we said, oh, screw it, it's iOS, but we need to be next gen iOS or whatever. So we just added more polygons. And then you have a final model. So that kind of, I hope it gives you an idea of how we work and kind of the art process is. So to wrap it up, you have the brainstorm, the references, the mood board, the sketches, then the concept art, and then the production. This is for our artwork. This is has nothing to do with your artwork. And what I hope that the takeaway is for you guys is that just think about the process. Just think about how you want to do it. If you look at JW from Flambeer, for example, he has a completely different process for his game design. He just iterates. That's fine too. For game design, it's a different topic anyway. So we need to, you need to think about it and then stick to it. If it works, just stick to it. Okay. So a couple of bonus examples. Because we have a lot of time left. 40 minutes. So, Fry the Firefly. This is the concept art for Fry. You can see that he's kind of a lazy fellow here. We figured, hey, let's do kind of a lazy thing because Momo is fast and he rolls and flipping around. So why not do a lazy sidekick? But then later we were like, okay, maybe that's not going to work that well because he kind of needs a sidekick. You don't want to drag around your sidekick to push him to go everywhere, right? He needs to be kind of comic relief. So we figured to have him a little bit more frantic and small and fast and kind of like Hade little firefly, so that's what he ended up as. Kuton is the kind of evil general, and we started out with a lot of the actually a lot of the animals that we just look at the real world, right? So we looked at the great owl for this one. There's a lot of epic owls, but this guy is really impressive. And we figured, okay, if we do that, then maybe we could make him some kind of samurai general, and we invented a backstory for him. This was in a later phase, some of the concept art, but I don't know. I felt like this guy was just too clumsy to be the final boss, right? So I wanted him to be a little bit more evil. So Jimmy came up with this one. This is the right track, but in the end, we settled for this. So it's kind of, if you look at this one and this one, it's kind of grown a little bit more mature in that sense. Wrong button. This is concept art from Kuton. Pretty close to what's in the game. And Panda is your mentor. He's kind of guiding you along the way. And you can see a lot of with Panda actually we tried a lot of different styles because it was so difficult to find a good vibe for him. Here he is kind of like a Buddha or kind of a nomadic creature. And in the world of Momonga, the pandas are actually, they're the lore keepers. So they are nomadic creatures, and they kind of gather all the tales in this world, and they are also kind of protectors of this world. So we wanted them to be a little bit goofy on one hand, but also very wise and powerful on the other hand. I guess it's a little bit like Yoda in a way, but more panda-ish. This is what we settled with in terms of the general style and vibe. This is the final concept art. It's like he's drinking beer and then he's just falling asleep or something. I don't know. Silly little panda. This is the in-game art, so you can see it here. And you can see that the concept art translates very closely to the in-game art, and you really focus on that a lot. So the concept art should have the design. In-game art should just follow the design and nothing else, which is hard to do, by the way. Also, I wanted to touch a little bit on world building because games are set in a world, and for world building, it really helped me to have the geography first, and then you might have some nations and rulers, and then there's a grand conflict. So, for example, if you take any fantasy book like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, there's all these nations, and they have kind of a big scheme where they want to protect their own interests or expand their borders or whatever it is. And it really helps to think of the world in that way, because if you create the geography first, then you have the lands and everything. It's just ready to be filled in. So that really works. And actually, a little sneaky trick that I use, I'm embarrassed to say it, but I actually generated a Minecraft map. And I painted the world of Momonga on top of it. And this is kind of a sneaky way to not get lost in cart creation and just building maps. And I don't know anything about geography, guys. So I just want to paint it very quickly. So this really helps to kind of tickle your imagination and see what would happen here, what would happen there. Then, of course, you need a storyline. So the storyline is definitely, it's helpful to build the world first. And if you construct the characters, then they kind of fit in that world because they are part of one nation or another nation. And it really helps to work from kind of the big things to the smaller ones. What I did for Momonga, I wrote a big overarching storyline that kind of, I'm not sure how many of you played Momonga, but it's a really small game. But I hope at least that you got the sense that there was something bigger going on. And I think we did that by just writing that grand storyline, writing about how those ravens are taking over the world and how the energy sources are threatened and everything. You don't have, you only get slight clues of it in the game, but we actually have a big world that we can build on. And this is useful for other games that we set in the same world. Then, of course, the in-game story really helps to do a storyboard, and then we just implement it and iterate until you draw it, basically. This is an example of the storyboard that we created. In terms of characters, a lot of thought goes into the characters. If you want to make them believable, then you will have to really think hard about what is their history, where do they come from, do they have any special skills? In the case of Momonga, there's Momo, the hero, and his village got raided by the owls. Why did those owls do it? Well, it turns out that the General Kruton, he has a whole backstory of himself. You don't see it in the game, but it's there. So he's doing this for a purpose. He's not necessarily an evil guy, but it's kind of like, this is part of the whole process. And then the last point is what do they look like. I would recommend to start with the history and kind of the special abilities and stuff first, then have a look at what do they look like. Level design is a whole big topic, and basically all I can say is start with the function, then do the storyline, then iterate. But it's really tricky. For Momonga, it was a pain in the ass because we had to figure out what makes pinball work. We're not pinball freaks or anything. We love it, but it's not like I'm the world champion in pinball and I know all these cabinets by heart. So we really had to invent the wheel in many cases. So for example, this is the boss fight area. And we started with kind of this raw prototype where you just, it's a purely functional concept and it's playable. So we added the boss in there. We had Kutan figured out by then. So we knew what we could do with him and we kind of just played around with it. And then we started doing the concept art to make that work with the story and everything. And we actually did a lot of tests and a lot of cases because we felt that this was an important level. So these are all the variations that we had for that same little area that you can see there. So you can see a lot of stuff going on. And this is the final implementation. I didn't have a better screenshot because it's not really environment you kind of really see it. But, this is another level where you go into kind of an underground area. And again, we started with the basic functionality. Then we did a lot of concepting. You see some of the concept art here. We introduced another character called Blanca. This is one of his earlier concepts. And basically, you fell down this shaft over here, and now you have to get back up again out of the hole. And this kind of evolved into what we have here. And this, maybe some of the people who played the game will recognize this concept art because this is very much what it looks like in the game right now. These are some of the in-game shots, engine shots. You can see over here, these are the two areas that you can see here. This is for the Panda boss fight. This is some older concept art as well. Just some pictures to give you an idea. And we played around a lot with these levels. Because again, we had to invent the wheel. And for example, you can see the basic concept of Momo, who's stuck here, and Guaca, who's here, another Momo, but bigger. You play as Guaca, and you first have to save Momo, and then you have this multi-ball functionality. But we dropped this layout completely because we felt it was not adequate for this level. Another concept that we just dropped, this we dropped this, we dropped this, we dropped this. We didn't drop this, yeah, did drop this. Yeah. So a lot of stuff that we tried out. We created hundreds of levels, little test cases. Fabian worked a lot on that. And, poor guy. Again, it was not good in the new game. It's just exploring. So here you can see kind of what the game looks like in the end, some of the levels. And if you want more of this, then you can check out our blog. We blog a lot about the processes and everything, and we definitely have a lot of this information available there. So check it out. And I did want to give you a little bit of a preview because we're working on Momonga for Wii U. And this is a little sneak preview of what you can expect for that version. So we upgraded all the graphics. It's still the same game, but just looks better. And that's it. So stay tuned. It's going to be out in early next year. So if you want one of these cards, I have them here. Just come up and talk to me. I'm friendly. So thank you so much.
I think there's time for questions.
Are there any questions?
Do you have any advice on naming characters?
Can I get this one?
This one? Well, the panda that you saw, he's called Panda the Panda. I'm not sure if I'm the right guy to ask this question. We had a mole rat in the game. He's called Guaca the mole rat. Guacamole. Really, I don't know, just goof around with it. I don't know if there's any tips.
How did you came up with the name Jimmy Pataya?
I didn't come up with that, I have to say. One of the guys saw a bottle of iced tea called Pattaya. And we think, hey, that's an awesome name. So we chose that. And Jimmy Pattaya is another one of our games. Actually, Pattaya was the original title. And Pattaya began as kind of a color matching game, which was very abstract and kind of like a Japanese vibe to it. I don't know what that is, but anyway, kind of crazy stuff. And Pattaya was the enemy that you would pick up. It was from the bottle of iced tea. And then later we changed the theme to kind of this skydiving dude. And Niels came up with, hey, why don't we call him Jimmy Pattaya? And that was actually a hat tip to Travis Pastrana, who's a very famous extreme sports hero. So,
okay.
Go figure.
Yeah.
What are like the main programs you use for modeling and stuff?
The main problems we use for programs we use for software.
Okay.
So we use 3D Studio Max for modeling and Unity as the game engine. That's the main thing that we use. Then we use Photoshop for the texturing, and that's it. I'm not saying that that's the ultimate setup, but you know, Paladin was founded in 2005, and back then Max was kind of the standard for a lot of modeling.
Do you animate in 3ds Max or Unity?
We do both. Depends on the type of animation. The character animations are done in 3D Studio Max. Then it's imported into Unity. Unity has a very nice blending system called Mechanim, which is great. But we do all the animations in 3D Studio Max first, and then we blend between those. That's how does that answer your question? And for interface animations and stuff, we do that in Unity. So those are the simple ones.
And did you have to change a lot of art for the Wii U version, or was it scalable?
Everything.
Okay.
But we did build upon the originals. So,
Yeah.
but we changed everything. And some models were just mesh smooth, and then tweaking it a little bit. But yeah, we did. We could have ported it as it was, but on mobile, on the big screen, it doesn't really look like, wow, this is awesome. On mobile, it's actually pretty okay. But when you look at it on the TV screen, it's not bad at all, but it misses kind of that next gen vibe we wanted to have.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Can you tell us more about the team you worked with on?
Absolutely. So Momonga was done in during a period of 2 years. We usually do a lot of projects that are work for hire, so we do commissioned work for clients. It means that Momonga is actually our side project, and we're not able to work on it full time because it requires a lot of cash and a lot of time to build a game like this. So the team was, I would say, fragmented a lot. At one point, we did have some dedicated people on it, mainly Jimmy, the artist. He did like 80 or 90% of the artwork of the game, really the hands-on artwork. So all kudos to him. Other than that, we had a couple of just full-time programmers who, I would say they worked 50-50 on Momonga and other projects. And on average, I would say that 3 people worked on it.
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot, but there were times when we had 9 people working on it. So, and in total, I think the list of credits is, I think, 20 people, 25 people, because it covered 2 years, and we changed a lot, interns and everything.
No more questions? Okay, give a big applause.